Oh, that felt good. What's up? What is up? What's shaking? Oh, damn. It's getting a little crowded in here, y'all. I'm not messing around. If I take a nosedive, it's because I tripped on a bucket, probably. Probably tripped on a bucket. What's going on? Y'all doing all right? Coming in quick. Again, coming in quick, coming in hot. I love it. I will wait another minute. Wait another minute. Getting the waves. Excuse me for... I don't claim to have good lighting in here or be very prepared to... There's no green room. I'm not powdering my nose ahead of time. I'm just taking a break from the grind to... Taking a break from the grind to jump in here and say, hey. Y'all hear me? Say yes. I'll wait a few more seconds and then I'll get down to it. Ooh, a little floaty blue heart that it dissipated in the ether. It goes, a bunch of them. They rapid fire hearts shoot up the side and they disappear. They come in close and they disappear. They come in the foreground and disappear into the background. I find it quite delightful and refreshing. Margarita Boy is in the house. It's great when one or two people I actually know in real life show up. Here we are. I like to come on down here and pretend the light is the sun or the moon, depending on your mood. And then I like to bring it back up from ant's eye, back up to a bird's eye, just to sort of entertain myself in the most simple, basic ways. Okay. Coming in, a lot of people just jumping on quick. That's great. Cool. All right. So we're here now today. Every day feels exactly the same. I think it's Wednesday. It's hard to keep track. It's all blurring together. It's all blurring together as we go about our business, getting all kinds of information that we have to sort of decipher through from so many different sides. How much longer? When's the vaccine coming? When's it not coming? Maybe you're maybe you're on the left side. Maybe you're on the right side. Maybe you're somewhere in the middle. Maybe you like to turn health into a political issue. Maybe you don't. I'm not here to really get into all that today. I'm here to try and help y'all a little bit. Anyway, okay, the bell has rung. Recess is over. Class is in session. Here we go. I want to talk to you today. First off, I did an interview with Michelle Wang Art last Thursday, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some of it today. I did another interview last night for almost 2 hours. I was on the phone with someone. He's an artist and he's a writer and he's reviewed my work before. And then we're going to do another part 2 tonight. Really great, deep, insightful, deep dive interview. So I've been doing a lot of interviews the last few days. And so the Michelle Wang Art one, it's Artist to Artist number 2. It is posted on my website. Excuse me. Whoa, what's going on? Okay. That won't happen again. I know it wasn't very professional. Okay, so that interview is on my website. It's on the press page. So if you go to howardsherman.com and click on press, you'll find that interview. And I think it might be useful to you. Michelle's a very ambitious young woman, very young. I was surprised, but she's got a lot of, she's collected a lot of information. She had some good questions, and I tried to break them down and answer them. And I think for a lot of y'all out there, you'd find it really interesting. So go to howardsherman.com, click on the press page, and you'll see that Artist to Artist number 2, Michelle Wang Art interview. The other interview I mentioned last night is in progress. It's for another project that I will talk more about as it develops. I've got things coming up, things that I've mentioned to people who are on my email list. If you're not on my email list, you should get on my email list and go to my website, howardsherman.com, click on contact, enter your email, and hit the black button, the subscribe button, and you'll hear about everything before everybody else. So get on my email list. Anyway, I've got some things going on. I'm not going to tell you all about them yet. If you're on my email list, you probably know, or I've hinted at them already. But anyway, on to today. So I did this interview the other day, and there were some interesting questions, and I'm trying to find a good way to put this, but I guess what dawned on me during the course of the interview, during the questions, one or two of the questions that were posed to me, was some information that I thought might be useful to some of y'all here. Definitely useful to people who are just starting out. If you're an artist and you're a beginner, it'll definitely be useful to you. But I also think it'll be useful to other people who are a little further along in whatever they're doing, as maybe something you can do as a moment of reflection, a pause and a moment of reflection to sort of take stock of where you are or what you're doing, maybe in a very broad way. And maybe during this time of pandemics, that's what we're all kind of doing. We're forced to slow down and pause and reflect and take stock of where we are, what we're doing, how we're spending our time. Our time being the most important commodity that we've got. It's not money, it's time. You've heard it before, I'll repeat it again. Money's not the most valuable thing you've got, it's your time and how you spend your time. So I think it's important for y'all, excuse me, to keep that in mind. As you know, I know I just deviated, but I deviated slightly to make a good point. Anyhow, here we are. Anyway, during the course of last night's interview, something that I had talked about in last week's interview came up. Last night, I was asked about it. We somehow veered off into my time in art school. And what came up was that I was surrounded by some other peers in those times who had they were making very different work than I was. And when you're in a group, whether you're an artist or a plumber or a drug dealer or a hooker or a dentist or a construction worker or whatever, sometimes you find yourself when you're rubbing shoulders with other people, not necessarily literally, but metaphorically, y'all rub off on each other and people start making things pretty similar to each other. But what I think is important to realize is the way you're going to make work that is distinctively and uniquely your own is to get to know yourself a little bit better. So one of the things that happened was back in those days, during the interview last night, we were talking about those days. And in those days, there were several other people that I was around who made very obsessive compulsive tendencies. And they made things that were very well manicured, neat, tidy. There was one guy who would gesso and sand his canvases, his paintings 20 times until he got them smooth as a baby's bottom before he'd begin. So he'd spend all of this obsessive time preparing his surfaces, gessoing and sanding and gessoing and sanding. I guess he found it very ritualistic and meditative, but it would have driven me fucking crazy to do that. So, another person was taking a piggy bank filled with pennies. Okay, imagine how many pennies would be in a large piggy bank. Thousands. And he was dumping them out on a large sheet of paper and tracing them over and over and over again until he got like this beautiful sheen. He was tracing them over and over and over again on giant sheets of paper with a ballpoint pen or gel pen, fine point pen, until he got a layer of inky sheen. The imagined amount of labor and obsessiveness that goes in, and masochism that goes into making work like that. And some of them were really amazing, but it requires a certain sort of masochistic tendency and obsessive tendency that I realized very quickly wasn't what I was about. I was about I was neurotic and in some ways very impatient and filled with way more aggressiveness and bravado and much less patience than those guys in a certain way. In other ways, I had a lot of patience. Anyway, my point to all of that is that I knew myself. I got to a point where I knew myself, and I see a lot of y'all on here. I was trying to get my finger in the picture, who need to spend a little more time kind of figuring out what they like to make. Now, one way you do that is you do that by imitating others and copying others. That's how we start. I understand that. But I think another thing that people tend to do sometimes, more times than you realize, is they spend a lot of time trying to make things that really aren't suited to their temperament. So how do you go about finding what's suited to your temperament, especially if you're a beginner? Or especially if you've suppressed it, not even if you're just young and naive, but if you're older and you've suppressed it. Well, one way is you get out and look in person. Go look at things in person. If you're an artist, spend a lot of time out there in the world actually looking. When you're looking at things on your phone, you're not really looking. I was dealing with someone yesterday who was another person who wanted to write about my work, and she hasn't actually seen my work, even though she thinks she knows my work from looking at it on her phone. But she hasn't actually seen my work. So you need to get out there and look. You need to be able to put your nose in it and actually see it and experience it in the real world. And as you look, and then look some more out in the real world, you will start to figure out what suits you and what doesn't, what you like, what you don't. You'll ask yourself why. These are the sorts of ways you get to know yourself a little bit better. These are the sorts of ways you get to discover your temperament a little bit more. Not everyone's meant to make work the same way, So I think it's really switching hands here because one's getting tired. Oh, much better. Oh, fuck. Anyway, the point I'm getting at is you got to get out and look. You got to experience life. You got to make some bad decisions. You got to make some good decisions. You got to do things that you're uncomfortable doing. This is how you are going to get to know yourself better and what you want to make. Okay? This is how you're going to find your voice. You got to go live some life. And during one of the interviews, I was just thinking about that's exactly what I was tiptoeing around without actually saying it that way. But get out and live life. There's a reason why a lot of artists get better as they get older, because they live more life, they have more experiences. And if they've got a clue, which we don't have all the time, they learn from those experiences. I know some of this sounds pretty broad, and maybe it sounds obvious, but I think people need reminders. A lot of people, including myself, deep down you know these things, but you need to be reminded of these things sometimes. And then, and through all of that, you'll start to make things that resonate with you. And then once they resonate with you, then they will resonate with others more. And you won't feel like you're just sitting around copying people. I mean, for those of y'all on there who are doing all the copying, some of y'all out there copying me. I know someone mentioned that the other day. It's just free advertising for me, But you're not me, and I'm not you, and your experiences aren't mine. We've all had different experiences. And I think too, now that I'm on my little soapbox, I think too that something that needs to be mentioned too is there's a lot of people who stop themselves from developing and through fear. And you've got to be able to look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself what you're afraid of and what's slowing you down and why aren't things moving forward. I deal with this very same thing myself all the time. I was actually going to do a whole episode on fear and my fears, and then I thought this would be more important today. And quite frankly, I don't know if that would have been as useful to y'all today or not, but there's so many people on here who, if given the opportunity, I don't want to be too much of an attention whore about this sort of stuff, but there's people ready to do an Instagram live from their gynecology exam, or whatever. Hey, you know what I'm saying? I'm not interested in that, but it's important to get out and look in real life think about what you're responding to. Ask yourself why. Keep a sketch pad handy. Let your subconscious meander. Come back around and reflect on it later. And look at a lot of art history as well. I think what I just said can apply to a lot of other people too. If you have no interest in making art, that's cool. But if you're sitting at a job and you don't even know how it resonates with you anymore, it's important to take a moment and ask yourself why, and get out and think about things and look at things. And I think even you going and looking at an artwork and having a chance to unhinge yourself a little bit from the grind of it all would probably be a positive thing to do too. Anyway, I know I sounded today especially like I was kind of ranting, and maybe I was a little bit, but I think what I just said in broad strokes is going to help you figure out what you want to make. And that's sort of the point to what I'm getting at. Don't make what you think you're supposed to make. Don't make what your friends are making. Make what feels right to you by learning more about yourself and getting out and living life. That's how it's going to happen. And it's not going to all work out. Some of it's going to be wonderful and delightful, like a cool summer breeze. And other times you're going to get smacked upside the head with a 2x4. It's just the way it all goes. And now, questions. That's it. Question time. Give me some good questions. Happy to take some questions. I know it'll take a minute for them to come in. Was this helpful to you, what I just said? Tell me why. Tell me why not. Don't be shy. Throw it out there. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. As long as you don't start commenting on the blinding glare coming off my head, then I might have to run out and buy myself a Hallmark card to cheer myself up if you all start talking about that. So let's see some questions. Let me see. Okay, I'm scrolling. Forgive me, my texting finger's a little bit tired, so it might take me a little bit longer to get through. A wee bit of ayahuasca wouldn't hurt. Barry Connolly art. I'm not on here to recommend any kind of chemicals, even if they're organic, but some people seem to respond to that one. Mooney Macaron, I hope, thank you. Well, I'm glad I helped. I'm sure, okay, Catherine.Anna.art. I'm sure it would be so useful to talk about fear. Maybe I'll talk about that next time. Oh, look who's back. Sippa Teheran. I think you've emailed me too, under a different handle. Sippa Teheran asks, Howard, do you think the medium and even the subject chooses the artist, or rather the other way around? It probably goes both ways, Sippa Teheran. It probably goes both ways. Consciously and subconsciously. Studio_Ari_ advice for art school application, in parentheses, paint. I need more, studio_Ari_ need more specific information from you. I don't know if you might want to email me, and that's not my super forte. I don't know if you're applying for an MFA program, BFA program, where you are, any of that. I did not. I fell ass backwards into a really good program at a really good time, and that's actually an interesting story which triggered a lot of this talk today. I didn't go into all that, but maybe I will another time, because it's actually a really good, pragmatic, practical thing. Yeah, I know. Dabrowski, a little obvious, but a good reminder. Yeah, I know, but some people need to hear it, and some of the people on here are thinking it was good advice. So, skipping over some of these. skipping over some of these because they're not. I'm flattered by these questions, but they're not that useful for today's topic. What should I expect from professors? God, I'm getting a lot of questions about art school. Okay, I guess that makes sense considering I kind of talked about it. Some of these art school questions, if you email me, I might be able to help you. I may not. Some of these are nervous young artists. Y'all are nervous young artists wanting to know about these things, and so I can't really get into all of that right now. I think you need to, but take what I said today into consideration as you make your work. Yolanda Gonzalez Art, thank you. Yeah, I like what you just said. Catherine.anna.art. Here's something. I really did not expect this to go on such a pragmatic turn about art school, but okay, here we go. I just lost your question because it scrolled. Do you think it is necessary to have been to art school to be an artist? I do not. I think in the end, everyone ends up being self-taught in one way or the other. But I think more than ever, everyone can be an artist. Everyone can start out as an artist from a very young age. Everyone these days calls themselves an artist because they have an iPhone. But I think that not just with the professionalization of things, but with the way knowledge has gone, I think it's an advantage to go to art school, and I don't see that many. I think it's an advantage to go to art school, not an absolute necessity, but I don't see that many people being successful if they define success in terms of the sort of more professionalized way things happen now, which is only one way. Success can be defined in many different ways, but a lot of people in this sort of quote-unquote successful manner tend to go to art school. A lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them. Hope that helped. I can't tell you, Catherine.anna.art, whether you should go to art school or not. I don't really even know what your intention is. So that would be a big part of it. Studio_Ari_, look it up. Look me up. That says a lot about how hard you're willing to work when you ask me that question. Lots of questions, not all of them that helpful to you today, but very very curious about me. That's great. But I need some that are going to help with the conversation. We should feel excited about painting. Why you choose it? Okay, Tracy Ann Finley Art. I'm not really sure what you mean, but I'm going to take a stab at it because I think it'll be useful. Make what you want to make. Make when you, like what I was talking about earlier, when you start to learn more about yourself, it'll help dictate what you want to make. And you've got to make what's true to you. You got to make what you want to make, and don't be worried about selling it or not selling it, at least not at this stage. That can be very toxic. And I see that all of the time. I make what I want to make. I'm very fortunate to be able to make a living off selling my work, but I make exactly what I want to make. I've got stories about different times where if I would have made certain things at a different size, I would have made a lot more money, and I couldn't do it. That's something else I could talk about at another time that might be helpful. But make what you want to make. I don't know if that answered your question. And that's how you're going to be happy. Thank you, Sip It to Heron. Thank you. Okay, we're going to try and get to one or two more questions here. Do you think it's important for artists to be critical of other artists to make a stand on what is being created in the current? Yes. Okay, Seth P. Benzel, do you think it's important for artists to be critical of other artists to make a stand on what is being created in the current contemporary art scene? It's a great question. Now more than ever, with the neutering of art criticism and everything just being called good, or very little being criticized, I think that it's very important now more than ever for artists to be critical of other art, other artists. Constructive criticism is the way forward. And we live in a time of where people are just acting like pussies. I mean, just too afraid to, for whatever reason, to hurt someone else's feelings. But I think that the only way forward is in constructive criticism and rigorous criticism and being honest and truthful with people. And that's actually gonna be really helpful to everybody on here, you know. Very hard for some people to do, but incredibly important and something that you can apply to the rest of your life too. And I think that criticism extends not just to art or other artists or other art you're seeing, but yes, also the contemporary art scene in general, which I guess are one and the same. Oh, okay. Aliha Sidonia wants to know about what books would you recommend about developing yourself in art? Well, I don't think there's books about I think there's books about. I don't have a book for you. There are plenty of books there's plenty of books and YouTube channels you can watch about how to develop technically in art, and you have to have some technical ability in order to move, I think, to sort of make something. But then somehow or another, through making things and having some basic tools and lessons that you've learned, you will start to be able to find yourself through the form. So it's two separate things. Then there's art therapy, which I don't really know a whole lot about, and that's a whole nother thing. RN, my favorite is Art and Fear. I don't know exactly what you're talking about there, but James Larmon, any tips on how to create art as free as possible? No, I don't have any tips, because maybe you're not meant to make art that's free. Maybe you're meant to make interesting art that's very rigid. Maybe you know, there are people out there, they got a real cork up their ass and they need to make work about that, and that might be more interesting than if they're trying to be quote unquote, I know what you're talking about when you say free, or I think I know what you're talking about when you say free, you know. Free sometimes doesn't come through the process. Sometimes free comes through the finished product. I hate using the word product, but you know, I don't know anything about you. It's not a really, it's hard to answer that question. Okay. I think that's probably going to be it, because I got a lot of work to do, y'all, and I don't have a lot of time. Although there looks like there's one more. There's several more. I can't get to these all of these. Okay, Chrome Betty, I don't really know what you mean. I wish you'd elaborate, because that kind of looks like something rhetorical that might be interesting, but I don't really understand it. I think that we're going to sign off. I appreciate y'all tuning in. I hope you get to go watch that interview on my website, and howardsherman.com. Go to the press page and you can get on my email list. If you hit the contact button, you'll click the black box, hit subscribe, click the black button, and I will see you soon. Thank you. I'll talk to you all later. All right. Bye-bye.